Good evening, everyone. We are coming to our last board meeting for the year 2021. And it is so nice to see so many of you here with us. We feel like we're almost getting back to normal. So thank you for being with us tonight. This regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Spring Independent School District is officially called to order on Tuesday, December 14th, 2021. The time is now 7:06 p.m. Board trustees present: Carmen Carrera, Kelly P. Hodges, Deborah Jensen, Justine Durant, Natasha McDaniel, and myself, Rhonda Newhouse. I would like to ask everyone to turn off or silence their cell phones or electronic devices. Thank you. Tonight's presentation of the colors will be led by the Decaney Wildcats, NJROTC Battalion. The pledges will be led by the Wildcat Battalion Cadet Master Chief, Candace Johnson. The Color Guard Commander carrying the U.S. flag is Cadet Lieutenant Commander Emile Salinas. Carrying the Texas flag, Cadet Ensign Anthony Flatus. Left rifle is Cadet Lieutenant Avery Klossner. Right rifle is Cadet Ensign Andrea Martinez. The Decaney Wildcat NJROTC Battalion is led by Chief Victor Adams and Chief Robert Dunn. At this time, I would like to ask everyone to please stand. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Order. Arms. Ready. Cut. Up. Out. Face. Center. Part. Left. Face. Forward. Arms. Upward. Part.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence in your own way. Thank you. You may be seated. Joining us now tonight is Board Member Winfred Adams. Good evening, Mr. Adams. Our next item is the superintendent's remarks. At this time, I would like to recognize our superintendent of schools, Dr. Rodney Watson.
Thank you, President Newhouse, and all the trustees and all of our families and staff that are in the audience. Good evening. First, I would like to talk a little bit about Winter Wonderland. To start the night off, I want to thank everyone for coming out this past Friday night to attend our Winter Literacy Night. This was the first Winter Wonderland that has been held since the pandemic started. And it was a joy to see all of our students and especially our youngest children as they ran around and participated in all the crafts and activities. If you weren't there, you missed a treat. There were hundreds of families that were out there at our stadium. And so this year, our district departments worked under a tight timeline to move the event outside of Planet Ford. The stadium was transformed with holiday music in an area for man-made snow that didn't last that long, and literacy activity booths lining the perimeter of our football field. This left the center of the open field, as I said earlier, for kids to run, to play. We saw them having relays. We saw them rolling around on the turf, but we saw them having fun. Every child was able to take home a book of their own, and I think our families had an absolute ball. And it was once again a fun way to engage our students with fun activities to help them enjoy the love of reading. In addition to that, our staff has been very busy with our toy drive in partnership with the Northwest Assistance Ministry. So I would like to thank all of those who donated to our annual toy drive in partnership with NAM. Collectively, our employees and community partners were able to contribute 1,300 toys, which will be a huge boost to the overall goal of over 5,000 children that we want to serve this year. Many of the gifts will help make the holidays brighter for our very own Spring ISD students. NAM has already begun delivering gifts this week, and we're happy to be a part of this worthwhile event. Last night, our Spring ISD Police Department hosted their second annual Blue Santa event at the Academy Sports and Outdoors here in Spring. I want to say a very special thank you to Mr. Culberth, who is our Chief of Police, and all of his who worked to make that event a success. During the event, 30 Spring ISD middle and high school students and their families were selected based on need to participate in a shopping spree for the holidays. Other local ISD police officers and law enforcement agencies, including Alding, Klein, and Harris County Constables Precinct 4, came out to support the event. Thanks to local businesses and sponsors, the police department raised over $7,600, which allowed each student to receive a $200 shopping spree for whatever they wanted. And I'm told by some of the students and by some of the officers that students shopped for their own parents and siblings instead of shopping for themselves. So a huge thank you to our Spring ISD Police Department for hosting another successful Blue Santa event. Next, I'd like to talk a little bit about school choice applications. I also want to share a reminder about the annual school choice application period, which continues through Friday, January the 7th. For those families submitting applications for our school choice programs, it's an exciting time. In addition to the campus tours and showcase nights held last month, in December, we've been able to offer a series of in-person and virtual opportunities or lab sessions for families in both English and Spanish for anyone needing assistance with filling out their school choice application. Once again, this goes to support our board's vision of more opportunities and choice for our families and our students in Spring ISD. Our final in-person open lab will be held this Thursday, December 16th, from 9 to 11 a.m. at the Spring ISD Community Engagement Center, and all interested individuals are welcome. I'd also like to extend my gratitude to all of our Spring ISD staff members who have supported the effort to streamline and simplify the application process, including those who help organize the open labs for families to get the needed support. It's one more way that Spring ISD as a district is making opportunities accessible for all of our students. And one of the things that I think our community is always interested in is our calendar surveys. In January, we will be posting 2 calendar options for the 22-23 school year to ask for feedback from our employees and our families. These 2 options were reviewed and endorsed by our ACE committee members, and I would like to thank all of them for their diligence, their time, and their effort as they created these options. This feedback is vital. It's a vital piece of information to the process before we present our final recommendation to the board in January. We will share more detailed information with you all next month, but please, we encourage everyone to view both options and to select their preferred option. With that, we'd like to thank you for this evening and the announcements, and I'll turn it back over to you, Ms. Newhouse.
Thank you, Dr. Watson. At this time, I'd like to ask board members if any of you would like to give remarks.
I would like to apologize for my tardiness this evening. The reason I was late is because I was over at Westville watching my daughter perform in their winter symphony performance. And I've been doing quite a bit of that because I have a daughter that performs at Roberson in the choir. And I want to thank here publicly the band directors and the parents that support our kids across the district with our performing and visual arts performances. It's really beautiful to see during this most wonderful time of the year.
I would like to add that and just take a moment to acknowledge over the past couple months, I've had a chance to visit many of the campuses across the district, including this past Friday. So just want to highlight some valuable work that I've been seeing and just show my appreciation. First off, last Friday, I was able to go to Teach Up and experience the Springway systems and routines training. Met some of our first year teachers, some from out of state, some returning to the district. So it was a joy to be able to just meet them. They're energized and ready to go with our students. And the training was just engaging and relevant for the educators. I was also able to see implementation of the Springway systems and routines across classrooms that I visited. So I just want to thank principals, school leaders, teachers, staff, and students for opening your learning environments and for all the hard work you've been doing. So just want to list a few of them here. So observing Decaney math teachers and PLC, planning for their credit recovery for their students. I've been able to witness technology integration and literacy, even in pre-K at Booker Elementary, high-level vocabulary instruction taking place through the Amplify curriculum at Eikenrow Elementary, the phenomenal band spreading Christmas cheer over at Bailey Middle. Also, the Stage Crusher Step team gave me a show under the direction of Mr. Boudreau, so that was amazing. And also seeing the smiles of children who are able to purchase holiday gifts for their families at Burchett Elementary's PTO Christmas shop. And so they even can have their gifts specially wrapped by family members who are volunteers, so they can have a surprise for their families for Christmas. And then also, the innovative learning opportunities presented at the students are pursuing at Robertson Middle, from photography, I saw animals in the agriculture pathway, students working with drones. So just amazing learning opportunities that are available. And so I appreciate all of you for opening, again, your classrooms, your learning environments, and just want to commend all the teachers, like Trustee Newhouse said. This is our last meeting of the school year, and so we're at our halfway point, and just want to acknowledge that while we are excited to be back in the class in schools, this year has presented its own unique challenges as well. So just thank you to all the educators, the staff, community, and students for all of your dedication and your hard work, and wishing you a restful and enjoyable Christmas break. So thanks.
I'd like to do a shout out and congratulations to our two, how should I say, third round playoff finalists. Westville went to the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, and I know Winfred Adams was at that game. Thank you. And the spring game up in Dallas, Dr. Jensen and myself, we were in Dallas for the spring game at that beautiful indoor Jerry Jones World Stadium. So congratulations to spring and to Westville High School on making it that far in the playoffs. We want you to know that we are proud of you and supporting you all the way. So, as we continue tonight, our next item is a spotlight of the 2021 Spring ISD Superintendent's Holiday Card Contest winners. So at this time, I would like to recognize our Executive Chief of District Operations, Mark Miranda.
Thank you, President Newhouse, Dr. Watson, members of the board. It is an exciting time of year. I think we're all anticipating the season. And so it's always a really special time to be able to spotlight our 2021 Spring ISD Superintendent's Holiday Card Contest winners. And to be able to do that, I would like to invite our Assistant Director of Performing and Visual Arts, Mr. David Landgrave, to the podium to be able to highlight this contest.
Good evening, President Newhouse, members of the board, and Dr. Watson. We are thrilled to be here tonight to present to you the winners of the holiday card contest, and Amanda Byers is going to take from here this evening, our visual art coordinator.
Hi, okay, exciting. Good evening, President Newhouse, members of the board, and Dr. Watson. So in our spotlight tonight, we are pleased to recognize the winners of the 2021 Superintendent's Holiday Card Contest. So as you know, the odd numbered years are elementary contest years. And so we received some really wonderful submissions this year from each of our elementary campuses. The submissions were compiled and members of the cabinet, along with Dr. Watson, voted to select the winners just before Thanksgiving break. So at this time, I will announce the winners and ask the winning scholar and their teacher to join me next to their artwork as we announce them. So our third place winner this year is a piece entitled Snowman, created by Lyric Frazier, a fifth grader at Burchett Elementary. And Sheila Broderick is the art teacher. And so Lyric and Ms. Broderick, if you guys could please join us at this time. Okay. Our second place winner is a piece entitled Poinsettia by Derek Moreno, a third grader at Burchett Elementary also. And Ms. Broderick is his teacher. And Derek, if you could please join us at this time. Excellent. And so this year, our first place winner in our Spring ISD Superintendent's Holiday Card Contest is a piece entitled The Christmas Village by Emile Ross, a fifth grader at Clark Intermediate. His teacher is Ms. McHenry. So Ms. McHenry and Emile, if you could join us at this time. So we know that this accomplishment would not be possible without the support of the families of our students who value a rigorous arts education. Would the families of our art winners please stand and be recognized at this time? And this accomplishment would also not be possible without the incredible support of our campus administrations. If you're an administrator at either of these represented campuses, please stand and be recognized. So, Dr. Watson, as this is the superintendent's holiday card contest, we would welcome any comments from you or from our board of trustees at this time. We would also like to have a picture if you guys don't mind.
So I was excited to get down and take the picture and shake some hands. The cards, all the submissions this year were absolutely wonderful. And the three that were selected, I definitely see why they're selected. First of all, congratulations to you. I want to thank the staff, the teachers for your support in helping the students achieve this goal, and parents, once again, thank you so much for all you do and you're entrusting your kids with us. Congratulations, students.
I am always flabbergasted at the talent of and just it's beautiful artwork. And so taking this back a bit to business, like I know artists in my work, and like as we work on developing, pathways for students in terms of career pathways, like I really do expect at some point to be buying a Hallmark card or seeing a billboard on the highway or seeing a commercial with some of these young people being the producers of the art. This is just really amazing work. I congratulate all three of you. Very well done.
And yes, we would love to take a picture with the winners. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that a little heavy?
Stay right. What's that name? Get out the way. Junior, you get him. Right here, right here.
Very nice, nice smile. But I can't see.
I keep those. You tell me, good job, big brother. Got your picture, got your photo.
Everyone, thank you very much. At this time, we'll turn it back over to Ms. Miranda. Thank you. Thank you, President Newhouse.
So our next item is a points of pride for the Spring ISD Procurement Services Department. So at this time, I'd like to recognize our Chief of Human Resources and Human Capital Accountability, Julie Hill.
Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Watson. I have the exclusive honor right now in our district of leading the communications team, and so I bring you our point of pride for tonight. I would ask at this time if our procurement department would come forward and be joined by their chief, Ann Westbrooks. That's good. Just you by yourself?
Yes.
Well, that's all right. Philip is more than enough. This evening's point of pride recognition goes to the Spring ISD Procurement Services Department. Under the leadership of Executive Director Philip Ellison, the department once again has been awarded the Achievement of Excellence in Procurement Award from the National Procurement Institute. This is the department's 12th consecutive year earning this award. That deserves applause right there. The National Procurement Institute presents the award each year to public and nonprofit entities in recognition of organizational excellence, professionalism, and a dedication to continuous innovation in procurement-related practices. This year, Spring ISD was one of only 46 recipients in Texas and one of only 19 school districts across all of the United States and Canada to receive this distinction. That deserves another round of applause. The award criteria evolves each year as best practices in public procurement operations evolve with updated requirements and new technologies. The Spring ISD procurement team's record of winning this award annually for more than a decade clearly shows how committed they are to continuous growth. It also shows how they exemplify the district's core values, striving for excellence in all they do, building trust through integrity, and winning as a team. Please join me, and if I could have our general counsel join us. Philip brought their trophy to share with us this evening. It's very heavy, I need help.
Very heavy.
Please join us in congratulating Philip and the entire Procurement Services Department.
Thank you.
And Do we get a picture? Well, please, let's join in the horseshoe.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Hill. That was wonderful news. Thank you. Our next item is agenda participation. This item allows members of the public an opportunity to speak on agenda items before those items are considered by the board. Mr. Binkley, do we have anyone registered to speak under agenda participation?
No, Madam President, we do not.
Okay. So as we continue tonight, we're going to move to a couple of items on tonight's agenda. As tonight, we will swear in the recently elected trustee candidates and elect board officers. So at this time, I'd like to recognize our general counsel, Jeremy Blinkley.
Thank you, President Newhouse. The Spring Independent School District was scheduled to hold an election on November 12th, 2021 for trustee position 6 and trustee position 7. The election was canceled per the Texas Election Code, which allows the school board to cancel an election if each candidate whose name is to appear on the ballot is unopposed after all pertinent filing deadlines have passed. Elected to trustee position 6 is Carmen Correa. Elected to trustee position 7 is Natasha McDaniel. And I would like to ask Ms. Correa and Ms. McDaniel to join me inside the horseshoe now. And there are 2 white dots there on the floor that Jason's going to grab our camera so everybody who's watching online can see the swearing in as well. Thank you, Jason. Okay, so Ms. Correa, this certificate of election certifies that you were elected trustee position 6 of the Spring Independent School District at the general election held on November 2nd, 2021. Find a way to hand that. And Ms. McDaniel, This certificate of election certifies that you were elected trustee position 7 of the Spring Independent School District at the general election held on November 2nd, 2021. And so first, please join me in congratulating Ms. Correa and Ms. McDaniel. I will now ask Ms. Correa and Ms. McDaniel to sign the officer's statement. The statement reads, I blank, I, your name, do solemnly swear or affirm that I have not directly or indirectly paid, offered, promised to pay, contributed, or promised to contribute any money or thing of value, or promised any public office or employment for the giving or withholding of a vote at the election at which I was elected, or as a reward to secure my appointment or confirmation, whichever the case may be, so help me God. And so I will ask you both to come sign these. I have some pens right here. So Ms. Correa and Ms. McDaniel will now take the oath of office. I would like to recognize Jason Sheffer, who will administer the oath.
Good evening. Ms. Correa, please repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of School Board Trustee for the Spring Independent School District of the state of Texas, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state. So help me God. Ms. McDaniel, please repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of School Board Trustee for the Spring Independent School District of the state of Texas, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state. So help me God. So now we will sign the oath.
All right, please join me again in congratulating Ms. Correa and Ms. McDaniel. And I would like to ask if either of you have anyone in the audience that you'd like to recognize this evening. Yeah, to the mic.
Okay. Well, this is weird because it's this one. I'll come this way. I just want to recognize everyone in the Spring ISD community and just say thank you for the warm embrace for this past 4 months in this position. I'm looking forward to continuing to work together, to learn, to engage with you so that we are able to create more innovative, equitable, and impactful educational opportunities for our kids. So thank you. And my husband's there too. And my family. Hey guys. I know they're watching on Zoom land too. So thank you, everyone.
She's a much better public speaker than I am, so I'll just echo her sentiments. Thank you for supporting us. This has been an interesting time, and I look forward to the journey ahead and hoping that I can do everything I can to help support the community and our schools and everybody in it. And I want to thank my husband and my son over here. Thank you guys for showing up last minute.
Again, congratulations, ladies. Congratulations. Our next item is the election of board officers. In accordance with Board Policy BDAA, the Board of Trustees shall elect a president, vice president, secretary, and assistant secretary at the first meeting of the Board of Trustees following the election of trustees. First, however, we will recess into closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 551.074 for the purpose of discussing the qualifications and duties of board officers. The time is now 7:41 p.m. We will now reconvene and resume this open session of the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. The time is now 7:59 p.m. General Counsel Jeremy Brinkley will assume responsibility of the meeting to accept nominations for the position of Board President. After a president has been elected by a majority vote, the president accepts nominations and conducts voting for the position of vice president, secretary, and assistant secretary. Board officers shall serve for a term of 1 year or until a successor is elected. I will now ask Mr. Brinkley to preside over this portion of the meeting.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I will entertain nominations for the position of Board President.
At this time, I am nominating Justine Durant for Board President.
Second.
Okay, so trustee Newhouse has nominated Justine Durant for Board President, and it has been seconded by trustee Adams. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, as there are no further nominations, we will now vote. So all those voting for trustee Durant as Board President, please raise your right hand. All right. The vote is unanimous and trustee Durant has been elected as the Board President. I will now turn the meeting over to trustee Durant. And Jason does have a script for you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Ms. Durant.
You.
I happily thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Ms. Durant, as my last duty, I would like to pass the gavel over to you,
Okay, I'll
please.
take that. I'd also like to thank trustee Newhouse for her outstanding service as Board President to the Board of Trustees. And with that, thank you, Mr. Brinkley. At this time, I will entertain nominations for the position of the Board Vice President.
Madam President, I nominate Winfred Adams Jr. for Vice President of the Spring ISD Board.
I second.
Are there any other nominations? As there are no further nominations, Winfred Adams has been nominated as Vice President of the Board and seconded by Natasha McDaniel. And as there are no further nominations, we will now vote. All those in favor of Winfred Adams as Vice President, please raise your right hand. All those opposed? Winfred Adams has been elected Vice President of the Board. At this time, I'll entertain nominations for the position of Board Secretary. Are there any nominations?
Madam President, I nominate Kelly P. Hodges for the position of Secretary.
I second that.
Carmen Carrera has nominated Kelly Hodges as Board Secretary. It has been seconded by Rhonda Newhouse. Are there any further nominations?
All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed? That is unanimously, we've nominated Kelly Hodges as board secretary. Congratulations. I will now entertain a nomination for the position of board's assistant secretary.
I nominate Rhonda Newhouse for the position of Assistant Board Secretary.
Second.
Rhonda Newhouse has been nominated as the board assistant secretary by trustee Kelly Hodges and seconded by trustee Winfred Adams. Are there any other nominations? Not hearing any additional nominations, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed? Rhonda Newhouse has unanimously been elected assistant secretary for the Board of Trustees. Congratulations to all of our new officers. Thank you. Give me 1 minute to reorganize myself here. All right, our next item on tonight's agenda is a recognition. We want to recognize our Chief of Innovation and Equity, Dr. Lupita Hinojosa.
Thank you, President Durant. I
Oh.
appreciate the recognition and congratulations.
Thank you.
And so I am on page 13. And you also, before you have an orange folder, if you would like to follow along. I'm also going to be sharing my screen. Okay. And so on page 13, I bring to the board the Texas COVID Learning Acceleration Support, or what we know as T-Class, and it is a grant. And as you know, in accordance with our board policy, any grant that's over $10,000, we bring it to you, the board, for acceptance of the funds. And so tonight, instead of just telling you about it, I wanted to walk through a quick presentation to give you a high-level overview of this grant. And as I said, it's called our T-Class grant. And actually, it was released by TEA in late July. This opportunity became available for districts across the state. And so anytime that we're looking at grants, we always look for alignment to make sure that it aligns to not only our district's mission and vision, but that it also aligns to our theory of action. And this is one that you're very familiar with. This grant does deal directly with our curriculum, our assessment, our professional development, and ultimately it will directly impact our students, our schools, our teachers, and ultimately our student achievement. One of the things that I wanted to do was to kind of come back and remind our board, this is our work that we began really talking about last year. As our children started to trickle back in, we realized that there was a huge learning loss, what so many people call the COVID slide. So in the spring semester, we came and began talking with you about our recovery plan, our intentions on how we were going to recover the loss. In May, we came to the board and presented a draft of our recovery plan, which we then took to our ACE committee, our principals, and ultimately came back to you in June to give you an overview of our final recovery plan, which has what we call 5 tenets, focusing on developing and making sure we have highly effective principals and teachers in every building, that ongoing aligned curriculum with those progress measures. We know we needed a maximizing of our learning time, whether it was during the day, extending the day or extending the year, the high dosage tutoring, and of course, a safe and secure learning environment. So we presented that recovery plan to you. Our final presentation was in June with the approval. And so we launched our recovery plan in June. And as I said, the state then released this opportunity of the T-class grant on actually July 19th. And we had the opportunity to review and submit our application in September. And so what we did, and as you can see here, this T-class grant has a specific framework that is focused on 5 strategies. So as we looked at this opportunity, we looked for alignment. And I hope just high level, you can see that at the state level with this grant, they're focusing again on strategic planning and performance management, on making sure that school districts had high quality instructional materials, that school districts were investing money in developing their talent pipeline and supporting teachers. The state also said, we want to support districts as they look at extending and providing more time for children. And finally, we want to support districts that are looking for innovative school models. And as you can see, these strategies from the state align to our framework that we actually developed last spring. And so we researched further this grant, and you can see that they're specific what the state calls decisions or specific strategies that if you wanted to apply for this grant and you received the funding, that this is what the money would be targeting. And again, I bring this to you as a high level overview, but I hope you can see that we were already on our own implementing so many of these specific decisions. So under strategic planning, you know, the expectation is that we plan for accelerated learning. And that was the point, the cornerstone of our recovery plan. They look at instructional materials and they said, you have to use, number one, high quality core products, which we were already piloting last spring. And they looked at supplemental approved products from the state, which again, and hopefully some of you that were on the board remember the Texas Home Learning resources, what we call the Crimsy materials, which is the Amplify curriculum, our Eureka math, our Carnegie math. And so we said, absolutely, we are already doing that and can agree to do that. The teacher pipeline. Remember back in May, actually, we brought to you, the administration brought to you a partnership, an MOU with Sam Houston State University, where we were planning to already bring in resident teachers into our district. So we were already looking at that. This grant will provide funding for it. We also talked about the residency, the opportunity culture model, where we are able to implement innovative teaching models. We brought that MOU to the board back in June, which the board graciously approved. This grant would fund that project. Additionally, you all know we had already implemented the ADSE program, the extended school year, and had approved that for our clerks, all right? This grant would fund expanding that project as well as extending the school day and providing those resources. And last but not least, the models around PTEC, which as you'll recall, we had already applied for our Decaney PTEC grant. This grant will allow us to expand and extend this grant. And then new school models. And so we looked for alignment. We worked with our committee, cross-functional committee, to make sure that this grant aligned to, number one, our theory of action, and number two, the recovery plan that we had began to implement. And so just quickly, as I said, I walked you through each one of the decisions. I want to now let you know what we are doing towards those decisions. Because while the state said you can approve or you can apply for 10 decisions, we chose not to apply for all 10 because there wasn't alignment. Number one, absolutely directly aligned to the work that we are doing in our Lift 6 middle schools. This grant will support bringing in technical assistants to work with our principals and our teachers and our assistant superintendents in the tenets of our Lift 6 model that we are implementing. Plus, it's going to allow us to hire what we call a data fellow. We will be partnering with Rice University, with HERC, to bring in someone that's going to help us analyze the data and the work that we're doing in our middle schools. The second tenet, which you know intimately, and some of you were here when we had our teachers present and we showcased their videos with Amplify, Reading Curriculum, the Eureka, Math, and the Carnegie. This grant will not only pay for those resources, but also provide professional development. It will also provide stipends for our teachers that are going through the pilot. And we are also planning to utilize the support that it provides for math and literacy coaches that will be working directly with these materials. Number three, decision number three, again, clearly aligns to what we are doing in providing support for our parents. This is going to provide us resources in the spring for materials that we can send home so our parents can work with their children, our students. And one big piece here is that it will also allow us to buy materials for the college math and reading courses that we will be offering in our high schools. This one, I know that you all are excited to see. We'll provide funding for tuition and fees, and even what they call a living stipend, but it will really benefit our Grow Your Own model, where we will be able to identify 6 paraprofessionals, and we will be able to pay for them to go back to school and get their teaching certifications if they already have their bachelor's degree. Or we will pay per candidate, this grant will pay up to $19,000 per candidate to get their bachelor's degree and their certification. So this is a way to grow our own. Our paraprofessionals are already in our schools, already working with our children. And the next piece is what we call the education and training courses. This is to develop and grow our education pathway at our 3 comprehensive high schools. This will provide for training for the teachers, the CTE teachers that are teaching these courses, as well as stipends. This is what we already talked about on decision number 5. We've already established that partnership with Sam Houston, and it will provide stipends for those resident teachers. Again, it will also provide stipends for our mentors, and it will help us design our innovative staffing models. Number 6, and I know you all remember, we are already working in our tutoring program. We are tutoring our students and providing that acceleration during the day and also after school. So this funding will allow us to provide those quality instructional materials that are approved by the state. Number 7 is that decision number 7 is going to allow us to bring in additional schools into that extended year. As you know, our clerks are doing the extended year model under the iZone project. And this will allow us to work with, number 1, our parents and our teachers, our community, to bring in the additional elementary iZone campuses. But you'll see here that we're in the planning stages because we do need to meet with our community and with our parents to ensure they understand the benefits of our students being able to come to an extended year. Then you see number 9, this is exciting. We kicked off our P-Tech program at Dekaney that provides the opportunity for an associate's degree in computer programming. With this grant, we will be able to expand and add an additional associate's degree pathway at Dekaney, giving our children, our students at the high school, an additional opportunity to earn an associate's of applied science in animation, which is a pathway that many students are interested in. And finally, this will also provide us funding to work with our teachers at Dekaney, because they are a P-Tech grant, and at early college, and pay for tuition for our teachers to get their master's degree so that they can teach dual credit courses. And you might have seen that I skipped 2 decisions, and these are 2 areas that we determined did not align with our work and did not align to our recovery plan. Number 1, or decision 8, was that strong summer school program. And that was to bring all elementary schools, basically extending the year for all of them. And we believe in spring that it really needs to be a choice from the community of that specific campus. So we determined this was not in line with the direction that the district was moving in. And then finally, decision 10 is designed for schools that want to redesign or restart schools. And we determined that we were already doing this work with our iZone campuses, that we were not interested in redesigning, transforming, or restarting or reopening schools. And so I want to kick it over to my colleague, Ms. Westbrooks, because she's our partner in crime, to make sure that we, number 1, accept this grant, but make sure that we are aligned with the work.
Thank you, Dr. Hinojosa. And I like to say our partner in excellence, no crime in finance.
Absolutely.
So Dr. Hinojosa has walked you through the details of each of the decisions. And so here we wanted to show the dollars that are behind those decisions that have been applied for and awarded to the district. Each one of the decisions are very specific, very targeted. And so the dollars that are set aside for a specific purpose, as outlined in the decisions and as outlined in the grant application that the district submitted. So as with the ESSER funds, these are short-term funds. They're short-term funds that allow us to put some things in place and to get some lift with our student achievement and to hopefully get some long-term gains that we'll see for many years to come. But it's also very imperative to remember that they are short-term dollars, and again, very specific, very targeted. There are some of these items that are designed to be sustained. And so an example of that is with decision 1, and that's the data strategy position that Dr. Hinojosa mentioned. So we've already lined up our partner that will continue to fund that position once the T-class grant goes away. So that's a great opportunity that we will continue to have, even though the T-class funds do sunset in 2024. Other parts of this are such as the opportunity culture that Dr. Hinojosa mentioned. And so with opportunity culture, it's built and designed to be sustained using the district's existing funding sources. And so we're being taught and walked through how to ensure that it's designed in such a way that the district can sustain it with their existing budget without adding funds to the budget. Now, of course, some items such as decision 2, there's no way we can sustain those. Those are positions that we would have in the short term. So they would be very targeted. They would have a purpose. And then when the dollars go away, those positions would also go away. But of course, the materials and the supports that we've had, the impact would remain, hopefully, as I said, in many years to come. So the total grant award that is a direct grant to the district is 41.8 million, but there are some additional resources that are provided to us through a third party, meaning there are resources that are ordered on our behalf, or we just receive that guidance and that support from a third party vendor to help implement some of these things. And that's more of an in-kind, indirect grant that's not directly available to us. So those are the dollars, the $41.8 million that are aligned with the decisions that Dr. Hinojosa just walked us through.
Thank you, Dr. Hinojosa and Ms. Westbrooks. I will now entertain a motion that the Board of Trustees review and accept the T-Class grant totaling $41.8 million.
Madam President, I move that the Board of Trustees review and accept the T-Class grant totaling $41,817,873.
Second.
Second that, Madam President.
Thank you. The motion has been made by Dr. Jensen and seconded by Rhonda Newhouse that the Board of Trustees review and accept the T-Class grant totaling $41,817,873. I'll now open the floor for any discussion or any questions.
I'd like to say thank you to Dr. Hinojosa for this grant. Looking at the areas in which it will be used is most needed for our students. So thank you so very much for this grant for spring students.
I did have a question on the grant. Can you expand a little more on the reasoning why we didn't go with the decision 8?
So decision 8 would require us to have a calendar that was 180 days plus the additional 30 days. And we've actually experienced that. Having a calendar of 180 days does not allow us the opportunity to provide teachers professional development throughout the year. And so making that decision would, force us to have what we know from the feedback we've received from teachers, that it is not a good practice to only have the training in the summer and then go all year long with not providing that break for continual learning throughout the year. Now, we will continue to offer our own summer learning program that we do every year for the identified students. And that is a choice for teachers to work summer school. It wouldn't be a requirement. It is a choice that our teachers have.
Wanted to not so much, I just kind of want to acknowledge that in our recovery framework, the 5-pillar recovery framework, where I think we have had some challenges, and I know we're working to overcome those challenges. Pillar 1, highly effective principals and teachers. I know it's been difficult to keep teachers staffed in our classrooms. Again, this is a nationwide problem, and I wonder if the state, in providing these grant funds, are allowing us to be flexible and have some ways to move around and address the issues that we have with teacher staffing. And then also the safe and secure learning environment. We're all aware of what's been going on across this nation. We have had some challenges with our safe and secure learning environment in spring. And so I just want to encourage you all to make sure that we're still pressing and supporting our teachers and supporting the community, to make sure that those parts of the framework where we are having some challenges, we're working hard to address those.
Absolutely. Yes.
I may be premature, but I'm just wondering for decision 2, with the professional development for all products, would this be provided by the company, Amplify, Eureka, Carnegie, or would it be district staff providing it?
So this through the grant is being provided through the different vendors. Overall, it's our Amplify, Eureka, and Carnegie are doing district-wide online training, as well as we are bringing the consultants in for the campuses to work directly with the needs of the schools.
Got it. Thank you. Also, for the funding for literacy and math coaches, I know each campus already has literacy and math coaches. What is the thought on how those will be distributed across the district?
So part of the grant says they must work directly with the Amplify curriculum and the Eureka or Carnegie, no, Eureka, because it's only at the elementary level that they have to work directly with them. Plus, the grant says it is at a 30-to-1, 30 teacher to 1 coach ratio. So at this point, we are on hold and we'll be implementing this, and that's why we put planning for next school year. Because as it is right now, we've got vacancies across the district. So we will be looking at which schools would qualify for that additional coach that this grant would fund, and then which can we adjust our budget. And I'll let Ms. Westbrooks talk about that.
And so when she speaks of adjusting the budget, we already have some math and literacy positions in the district. And so this funding source allows us to move the cost of those positions temporarily and fund them through the T-class grant. So it'll be a combination of two, which is supplanting the cost and offsetting the cost of the current positions, but also the opportunity to add additional positions where needed, so long as we stay within that 30-to-1 ratio.
Thank you.
I just had a question. Have we given any thought to how the 6 candidates will be selected for the program on number 4? And this is a great opportunity.
It is, and I know Dr. Hill's team is working on this. We've already identified candidates, and they'll be having an informational meeting. The informational meeting will be in January, but we've identified candidates, paraprofessionals that are already degreed. And so they will receive a direct personal invitation. And then we also have paraprofessionals that have already, before all this, have looked for opportunities. And so we will be doing some direct invitations and then of course an open call. Ms. Farina's and Dr. Hill's team has already reached out to universities and certification programs. So we're working on those MOUs already.
Okay, and as it relates to teacher retention, have we, are we going to put something in place to where once the certifications are paid for through this program, that they will stay with us for a certain amount of time?
Absolutely, an agreement, and I know we're working with our general counsel to establish that agreement that says they will stay with us. Part of the grant requires that we have that agreement and that they stay with the district for at least 3 years.
Okay, thank you. Good job.
I just wanted to thank the whole organization because it amazes me how many of these things we have already started. And thank the state of Texas that they're letting us supplant funds and not just supplement, because all the grants I always wrote had to have supplementing.
Yes.
And here, you know, we've been doing it and we're not going to penalize by that, that we can actually support some of this. And I also want to compliment you on just looking forward to how to keep these things going, that when the funds are off and that goes off, that you really are trying to do some continuity of the excellence. So just kudos.
Thank you.
So I did want to echo some of Dr. Jensen's same comments. One, I want to start with the great work that's happened under Dr. Watson in securing funding grants for our students. We know that there's a lot of people behind the scenes that it takes to fill out these applications. First, identify the opportunities that align to us. And this one is absolutely amazing how their 5 strategies align so well with our strategic plan. And so to be able to identify that and then put in the work that's needed to compete and actually secure that grant and this wonderful opportunity for not just our students, but our staff as well. I love bringing in the paraprofessional piece. We've got a lot of opportunity there with some really hardworking individuals that really dedicate a lot of time to our district, and they aren't always rewarded at the level of the service that they provide. And to have this type of opportunity is absolutely amazing. And so I'm just really excited when you're talking about a grant, especially of this size. This is $41.8 million. I know we will execute it with fidelity, and I have a lot of confidence in our leadership. And I love how when Ms. Westbrook's commented that we've already secured how we're going to continue the funding that Dr. Jensen mentioned. So great work. Are there any additional comments or questions from the body? Or okay, with that, I'm go ahead and move for a vote. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Those opposed? Nobody, right? That passes unanimously. And motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to our next agenda item for tonight. We'll again recognize our Chief of Innovation and Equity, Dr. Lapita Hinojosa, and she'll walk us through a presentation for our public hearing.
Thank you, Ms. Durant. And definitely I want to thank, I know Ms. Westbrook said not partner in crime, but partner in excellence. Thank Ms. Westbrooks, thank Dr. Hill for her support and guidance, Ms. Miranda, the entire team, our council, and mostly our assistant superintendents and our principals, because they have given us and talk to us about their needs, and it allows us the opportunity to be able to do their work because we know it makes a difference. So definitely thanking the entire team. And so our next item is on page 14. And this is our public hearing on the adoption of our 2022 Health and Physical Education Instructional Materials. And as you'll recall, we had our panel that presented last Thursday, the full presentation. I just want to go quickly through a few slides to remind everyone of the work that we're doing. And as a board, you will have the opportunity to approve our recommendation. And so this is our proclamation 2022. And just as a quick reminder, this year, the State Board of Education issued this proclamation, and we will have the opportunity to secure materials, adopt the textbooks for health education, and you can see the different courses there, and physical education, K-8 and into the high schools. Just a quick overview of the timeline. We've gone through the process of securing the materials. We've had the opportunity for our teachers to provide us feedback. We've had opportunity for our parents, our families, our communities to view the materials and provide us feedback. And we came to you on Thursday and made the recommendation of the selected materials. Our next steps will be to finalize this process, and what is so very important for us is to be able to start working with our health and PE teachers to start that securing the materials, but training our teachers, giving them the resources so they will be ready to implement this coming fall. And as you'll recall, House Bill 1525 required that our SHAC be part of this process and that they be given the opportunity to review the materials and make the final recommendation. And you heard from Ms. Carroll last week where she walked us through the work that's been done. And they presented their recommendation to the committee at large that was led by Ms. Lori Carroll, our coordinator of, she's here back in the back, our coordinator of physical and health education. And so as you'll recall, the recommendation, the committee's recommendation is for Quaver Health PE in the elementary, And we talked a little bit about the reasons why, but most importantly is that it aligns 100% to the health and PE TEKS that the state is requiring. At the middle and high school PE, the recommendation was Goodhart Wilcox. And again, we went through and talked about why it was chosen. But importantly, the teachers were very pleased with the detailed lesson plans and handouts and PowerPoints that were already available for them, for the teachers, and the integration into Schoology. You'll recall Schoology is our learning platform. So teachers very pleased with Goodhart Wilcox. And then finally, at the middle and high school level, our SHAC committee's recommendation, as well as the textbook adoption recommendation, is that we continue using our abstinence-based curriculum, choosing the best at the middle school and the high school. And again, it, top reason why our teachers and even our SHAC, our parents that were involved, why they recommended this was the appropriate scripted lessons that were available for teachers to be able to teach these topics. And it really addresses the social and emotional aspect that comes about during these uncomfortable situations. And so those are the three recommendations that we are bringing forth to the board.
No, oh, sorry, no, Madam President, we do not.
Let's continue with the agenda. And I will now issue the motion that the Board of Trustees approve and adopt the curriculum adoption recommended by the Health and Physical Education, Instructional Material Review, and the School Health Advisory.
Madam President, I move that the Board of Trustees approve and adopt the curriculum adoption recommended by the Health and Physical Education Instructional Material Review Committee and the School Health Advisory Committee.
A second.
Thank you. It has been moved by Trustee Adams and seconded by Trustee Hodges that the Board of Trustees approve and adopt the curriculum adoption recommended by the Health and Physical Education Instructional Material Reviews and by the SHAC Committee. I'll now open the floor for any questions or discussion.
I just want to publicly thank the members of the SHAC Committee for engaging in this difficult work and time-consuming work to make sure we have quality materials for our students.
And I want to add to that as well, and will also help explain why I'm abstaining when it comes time to vote for this. I am also, previously, some of you know, I was the parent chair of the SHAC Committee. And to Winford's point, there is so much work that goes on behind closed doors between parents, between the community members, and the stress and the frustration and all the work that it takes to get it up to this point. I definitely want to recognize Lori. I saw her there. I saw Nancy. Did she leave? I saw Nancy Torres here earlier too. Thank you so much for bringing this and putting all of your time and effort. Is very, very much appreciated. Hopefully we can get more SHAC participation and get more parents, because this is a good example of the effect that a parent can have by getting involved in a committee like this. So I would encourage anybody who's watching, anybody who's listening to get involved into SHAC, because these are the kind of efforts and effects that you can have on your school and in the district. So thank you, Lori. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you to all the parents and all the other SHAC members that were not here.
Thank you, Trustee Kara. I'd like to say our SHAC chair loss is the board's gain. And so we're really happy to have you. And I also would like to recognize Lori Carroll for all of her hard work. Is there any more questions or discussions? If not, I'll call for the vote. All right, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Our next item is the Board Equity Committee update. And at this time, I would like to recognize Trustee and Equity Chair Lead Winfred Adams.
Thank you, President Durant. So last month, we talked about the equity audit response that we were going to undertake in response to the equity audit. And we talked last month about an initiative to add additional counselors at risk across the district, social workers, KAIS workers, to support the mental well-being and social emotional learning of our students. This month, we're doing a deeper dive into budgeting, and I'm gonna call on Ms. Westbrooks and the other members of our committee to support me in making sure I don't leave anything out or misstate anything. So we're looking at in our next budget cycle, doing student-based budgeting, which is a way of budgeting that allows more autonomy to our building leaders. But with that autonomy comes some responsibility, and there will need to be some additional training and support for many of our school leaders, because it's going to take the ability to administer a budget in closer detail than they've been doing it, or many of them have been doing it. And so student-based budgeting is distinct from the way we do it now. Is right now, we sort of look at the total number of students on a given campus, and then we apportion FTEs based on that number. Do I have that right? And so what we'll be doing differently now is we will be looking at the different categories of students on that campus, and their additional weighted funding will follow them to those campuses to support campus and create an equitable allocation of resources and staff on those campuses. Let me stop and check and make sure I didn't leave anything out. So for our next upcoming budget cycle, this is something that we're going to look at doing, and Ms. Westbrooks will be bringing that to us at that time. Ms. Westbrook, do you have anything else you want to add?
Just that we were talking through possibly a good way of bringing it forward in the 22-23 budget process is through a pilot, where we can pilot it at certain campuses to ensure that we get the methodology right, and we work on some of that tiered autonomy and what that looks like for our campuses as well, and then replicate it once we see what the challenges and opportunities are with that process. Yes, sir.
That's right. Thank you for that.
I have a request. Could we see the budgeting using zero-based budgeting versus the purpose budgeting for the same campus, how it would affect it? Because as I understand FTEs, they're already different for GT students or economically disadvantaged students, special ed students, they're already different. If we were even using zero-based, before we start changing the whole thing, I'd like to see if there's a significant difference.
So my understanding, because I asked that question in the committee, and so my understanding is we're not discontinuing zero-based budgeting. It applies differently across the administration and across the campuses. So I don't want to butcher this too much, Ms. Westbrooks.
So we're currently using zero-based budgeting at the departmental level. And so with our curriculum and instruction, financial services, all of those departments are required to use zero-based budgeting to justify the budget that they receive going into the next year, not just taking a baseline and adjusting up and down. But at the campus level, we do currently use the staffing guidelines. And so we set the staffing guidelines based on the projected student enrollment. And so what student-based budgeting would do is it would add some weights for our special population students, and then it would provide some more flexibility for campus leadership to be able to flex some of those positions based upon their needs and not just straightforward following the staffing guidelines.
That was actually the note that I had made to ask to see some comparison around the impact of the staffing guidelines, because that's what's going to be impacted. And I think it's in theory, I think we're, heading in the right direction. I'd just like to compare and contrast.
Right, and that kind of analysis was provided to the committee. And so that's definitely available so that you can see that as we have further discussions about that.
And what I really would like to also compare is campuses with different makeup of different kinds of students
Mhm.
to see if there is, what the difference is in the funding. So
Right.
that we can make a better judgment.
Just my recollection of what was presented to us in committee is right now it is sort of a one size fits all, relatively speaking, right? There's some wiggle room and there's some availability for making adjustments. This methodology would allow for more of that. And again, we will need to train up our building leaders to make sure that they understand sort of the different dynamics involved. And so somebody help me out. Basically, if you have a campus of a certain size right now, you are sort of by default given a principal and then an assistant principal. And this is differing for elementary and secondary campuses. Whether you get a second assistant or a second counselor changes based on that number. And so what this would do was allow us to be more flexible based on the needs of the students on that campus. Ms. Westbrook said, if we have more ELL students or more gifted and talented students, every school building doesn't have the same needs. And so we're just really making it more flexible for our trained up school building leaders.
Okay, but my point is, if a building has more GT students or more special ed students, they're already getting more money per pupil. And this all sounds reasonable. But I've got to see numbers and graphs, and I've got to see the data,
I agree.
or I can't make a decent decision.
I agree. These are just the initial conversations about this. And so you'll see that data going forward.
And just to add to what you're saying, Trustee Jensen, with the staffing guidelines, ensuring that campuses have what they need, while there is some flexibility, there would be constraints that the board would determine. So you can't have two counselors, or you can't, it wouldn't be a free for all with the roles or the positions. That would be something that the board would help to create as well.
Any other comments?
Nope, that's all from the Equity Committee.
Well, I want to thank the committee for keeping us informed on their progress and kind of tapping in with us to get a pulse on our thoughts around the direction that you're taking. And so we really appreciate that, and we're looking forward to seeing those numbers or more detail. I do want to make a comment that, as we focus as a board, we always say, let's do what's best for kids first. And I think if we start talking about putting our dollars around a student-based budget, that we're continuing to do that in that direction. So it sounds encouraging and like the right thing to do. So we're looking forward to what comes from that. So again, thank you. And who's all on your committee? You want to recognize them?
Yes, ma'am. That would be Trustee Natasha McDaniels, Trustee Carmen Correa, Ms. Westbrooks, and we have different members of the administration sitting on as needs meet. And so our last meeting, we also had Dr. Hinojosa sitting in and Dr. Watson.
Thank you. Thank you all. Our next topic for this evening is Chief Westbrooks will present information regarding our TRS Active Care.
Thank you, Madam President. And this evening, we're seeking the board's approval to move forward with leaving the TRS Active Care medical plan based upon the information that was shared with the board on Thursday evening via presentation, with some changes that are happening with the TRS Active Care system and moving to regional rates that would actually increase as of right now, based on the data that the state has shared with school districts. The Houston region would actually have a higher cost relative to that of the state. And so we're seeking the board's approval to continue offering only the self-funded medical plan for all of our employees for the upcoming plan year.
Thank you, Ms. Westbrooks. And though I'm going to preside over this motion, I want to, for record, indicate that I will be recusing myself from the vote. So I now will entertain a motion that the Board of Trustees approve the administration's recommendation to leave the TRS active care system and expand the district's self-funding medical plan to all employees.
Madam President, I move that the Board of Trustees approve the administration's recommendation to leave the TRS active care system and expand the district's self-funded medical plan to all employees.
A second.
Thank you. It has been moved by trustee Newhouse and seconded by trustee Hodges that the Board of Trustees approve the administration recommendation to leave the TRS active care system and expand the district's self-funded medical plan to all employees. And we'll now open the floor for any discussion or questions. I will say we reviewed a lot of detailed and information in the work session on Thursday. So does the board have any additional questions?
I was just interested to hear if you have any extra feedback since the work session from teachers and employees about the change in going exclusively with one health plan.
No, ma'am, we have not begun seeking that input. The next steps based upon the board's vote this evening would be to start collecting that data from our employees to see how we may need to tweak and fine tune the district self-funded plan going forward to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our employees and their families.
I did have a question. I was not able to make the work session, but I was listening in. And so I'm not going to ask you to rehash the entire plan. But as I was listening, I noticed that there wasn't any discussion of any alternatives. So is it really just either TRS or being self-funded? That was one of the questions. And can you talk about the 5-year drop just a little bit before I ask my next question?
Yes, so once the district makes the decision to leave the TRS active care system, based on Senate Bill 1444, we're required to remain off and out of the TRS active care medical plan for 5 years, 5 plan years. And so as far as alternatives go, if we're not with TRS active care, then we're self-funded. But that's not to say that our plan has to remain exactly the way it is right now. We do have the ability to make decisions going forward each plan year based upon the needs of the district. And if those needs change, then our plans, we're at liberty to make those changes based upon the information that's available at that time.
So my question is more of a philosophical, or I guess theoretical question. Is that 5-year drop, is that likely to keep some afraid enough to stay in the plan? Because I know there was some discussion about who's really going to drop out and who's really going to stay in. Do you have any kind of feedback on that or thoughts?
I do not. Lots of districts are making their decisions at the same time that we are right now. So over the next week or so, we'll know more. The deadline is December 31st. And so when we come back in January, we'll definitely know more. I do know that even for our administration, as we were looking through the recommendation that we brought forward to the board, that certainly weighed heavily on the decision that, or not the decision, but the recommendation that we brought forward to you all. Because as I mentioned on Thursday evening, being self-funded is not without risk. And so that needed to be abundantly clear that with TRS, even though the cost would be higher, the risk is absorbed. You pay the premiums and you're done with it. With self-funded, there's certainly opportunities for some savings and to, build up that plan and make sure that it's advantageous to our employees, but we assume the risk with it as well. So it was certainly a criteria for the recommendation.
So is there a reason why we have to make this decision now and not wait until we get some more feedback before we jump?
Absolutely, because TRS's deadline is December 31st.
I just wanted to clarify that we do have insurance involved in our self-funded plan, that if a claim goes over, was it 250,000?
Yes,
that it
ma'am,
would-
the stop loss insurance. Yes, ma'am. If we have a claim that's above 325,000, then we pay up to the 325 and the insurance kicks in above that point. Yes, ma'am.
I also think it's important to note that although our current employees were really close to 50-50, I think, on adopting the new insurance program, they are when we were onboarding new employees, they at a much larger rate seem to adopt the self-funded plan. So I know, when you're starting a new job, that's something that you maybe look a little bit closer at. And if you're already in the job, I pretty much just adopt what I had last year every year. And so I wonder, if we have some of that happening in terms of our enrollment.
And we do have that data with about, I believe it was 47% of the employees that were on the TRS active care plan when we did the open enrollment this year did nothing, which means it was a passive role. And so they just kept the plan that they had the year before. To Trustee Adams' point, with our new employees, they're actually taking the time to review the two plans and make an informed decision.
And with the presentation at the work session, it appeared that Spring had a historical record of actually making less claims than we paid in payments. The COVID year was unusual. And I really feel like there are some technical and scientific medical advances going on right now that is going to mitigate that situation. So I know what you say, we're taking a risk, but I think this is a responsible decision.
Thank you, everyone. If there's no additional questions or discussion, I'm going to go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you for the reminder. Thank you. All opposed? And there's one abstention, Trustee Durant. That motion does carry 6-1. Our next agenda item tonight is the consent agenda. And I'll now entertain a motion to approve and adopt all of the items listed on tonight's consent agenda.
Madam President, I move that the Board of Trustees approve and adopt all of the items listed on the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
A second.
It has been moved by Trustee Hodges and seconded by Trustee McDaniel that the Board of Trustees approve and adopt all of the items listed on the consent agenda. Are there any questions or discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Anyone opposed? That motion does carry unanimously. Thank you. Our next agenda item tonight is public participation, the public participation portion of our meeting. I'm going to ask Mr. Brinkley, do we have anyone registered to speak under public participation?
Yes, Madam President. Crystal Johnson Brown has signed up to speak for public participation. And while Ms. Brown comes to the podium, I have a short paragraph that I need to read. And so the board invites interested citizens to address the board on any subject that they desire other than allegations concerning the character or capability of any board member, staff member, citizen, or student of the district. The board provides an opportunity on the agenda for citizens to address the board, and we welcome your participation. The board will listen and will not interrupt unless the person addressing the board infringes on the guidelines as stated previously or exceeds the time limit authorized for the presentation. In this case, you will have 3 minutes to present. Mr. Sheffer will keep time, which will be displayed on the monitors. According to law, the board may not take action on any item that is not on the agenda. The board will not debate nor respond to any question during the meeting in order to research the question thoroughly before replying. The board will seriously consider the matter brought to its attention and respond appropriately. Also, according to law, it is a criminal offense for a person to obstruct, prevent, interfere with, or disrupt a lawfully called meeting through physical action or verbal utterance. Citizens are requested to supplement any oral address to the board with a written summary of their presentation and any recommendations they may wish to suggest. Thank you for your concern regarding our school district, and we will hear you now.
Hello and good evening. My name is Crystal Johnson Brown. I am a CTE teacher here in Spring ISD at Carl Winchie High School. And I am standing before you to represent the AFT Spring Organizing Committee. Dear Board of Trustees and Dr. Watson, we would like to thank each of you in your commitment to protecting students and staff during the pandemic. Once again, Spring ISD has stepped up and led the way in continuing safety efforts to mitigate the COVID-19 spread. We are very grateful for all that you have done in this regard. We would like to extend our support and appreciation for the Spring ISD Board approval of the payment of a one-time supplemental pay for half-time and full-time employees. This one-time supplemental will help in a variety of ways, such as employee retention and morale. Spring ISD staff continue to excel under very strenuous conditions brought on by the pandemic. Thank you again to the Spring ISD Board of Trustees and Dr. Watson for your leadership these past several years. We wish all the best to Dr. Watson on his new position at the Texas Association of School Boards. We also look forward to further engagement with you, the committee, and our future superintendent as we build an engaged community towards Spring ISD goals. Sincerely, the Spring AFT Organizing Committee and the American Federation of Teachers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson Brown. Mr. Brinkley, are there any other speakers?
There
this
are no
evening?
other speakers this evening.
They are not. Our next topic is the Board of Trustees will now recess this open session and convene in a closed meeting in accordance with Texas Open Meeting Act, Section 551.071, 551.072, 551.074, and 551.076. No voting will take place in the closed meeting. Any action the board wishes to take as a result of discussion in the closed meeting will take place after the board reconvenes in the open session. And the time is now 9:06 p.m. We will now reconvene and resume the regular board meeting of the Board of Trustees. The time is now 10:22. We will now address the items discussed during closed session. Are there any motions?
Madam President, I move that the board render a final order to terminate the contracts of Jasmine Adams, Ora Anna Brown, Elsa Ramirez, Brandy Nobles, and Jack Shanley as presented in closed session, and to authorize the superintendent or designee to provide notice of the board's action to the impacted employees pursuant to Chapter 21 of the Texas Education Code.
there a second?
I second.
We have a motion from trustee Adams and seconded by trustee Carrera to move the board, that the board render a final order to terminate the contracts of Jasmine Adams, Ora Ann Brown, Elsa Ramirez, Brandy Nobles, and Jake Stanley, as presented in closed session, and to authorize the superintendent or designee to provide notice of the board's action to the impacted employees pursuant to Chapter 21 of the Texas Education Code. Any discussion?
I just
All
want
those
to
in-
make sure I might have got a couple of names wrong. It's Brandy Nobles and Jake Shanley. I think I
Shanley.
might have said Stanley. So Jake Shanley.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. That motion carries unanimously. Are there any other motions?
Madam President, I move that the board issue a school district teaching permit to the following employees: Manita Dudley, Billy Henry, for the purpose of teaching non-core career and technology courses, and to authorize the superintendent or designee to notify the Commissioner of Education of the board's action.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved by trustee Dr. Jensen and seconded by trustee Newhouse that the board issue a school district teaching permit to the following employees: Maninta Dudley, Billy Henry, for the purposes of teaching non-core career and technology courses, and to authorize the superintendent or designee to notify the Commissioner of Education of the board's actions. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. That motion carries unanimously. Are there any other motions?
Madam President, I move that the board approve and adopt the voluntary resignation agreement and release between Spring ISD and Rodney Watson.
Second.
It's been moved by trustee Newhouse and seconded by trustee Adams that the board approve and adopt the voluntary resignation agreement and release between Spring ISD and Dr. Rodney Watson. Is there any comments or discussion?
I want to make sure that Dr. Watson knows that it has been a pleasure and a privilege to serve with you in this work. I learned a lot from you. And I know you're going to do great things with TASB, but as for me, I'll be really sorry to see you go.
I will second about what a privilege it has been to work with you these years. You have taught us so much and helped us see what we can be, and we want to continue that journey. And thank you very much.
Also, Dr. Watson, in dittoing that it has been a pleasure working with you. You have taught us a lot. We have learned a lot. And I hope we have taught you a few things too, as well. But overall, we wish you the best in your endeavor, in your next move. And know that Spring is always your home.
Well, I did what my colleagues have said, and it's been a pleasure working with you, and I'm excited for you in your new position. And just know that we're here and we will continue to spring forward.
I'll ditto as well. I know our time was short because I'm new, but it was very eye-opening and enlightening the times that we got to spend together, and I appreciate what you've done for the district, and I echo everyone else's sentiments. I look forward to seeing the great things that you can do in the next level. So don't forget about us.
And I will round us up and say, just like trustee Correa has been short-lived, but I appreciate all of the just the warm welcome that you gave when we came, bringing us on, getting us onboarded. and just wish you nothing but the best. Definitely appreciate the time we've had together, and hopefully our relationship will continue because like everyone says, Spring ISD will always be your home. So thank you.
I agree, and it's bittersweet because I'd like to say thank you, thank you, thank you for all the hard work and dedication you gave to the district and our students. And I would like to wish you the best as you move forward. And don't forget about us. We're still here and we are here to support you in your future endeavors as well. Okay. Any other comments? If not, I'm going to go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. That motion does carry unanimously. Are there any other motions?
Madam President, I move that we adjourn tonight's board meeting.
Second.
It's been moved by trustee Hodges and seconded by trustee Adams to adjourn tonight's meeting. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All right, that's unanimous and we adjourn tonight's meeting at 10:29 p.m. Thank you.